Samantha Cakkavalesu Atra Gaccantu Devata Saddhammang Muni Rajassa Sunantu Sakka Mokkadang Dhammasavana Kalo Ayam Padanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayam Padanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayam Padanta Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Sabbe sattha sukhakhamani dukkha patikkunani. Most Venerable Mahanayaka Thero, Abbot and great spiritual advisor of Pasadena Buddhist Temple, Most Venerable Dhammapiti Thero, and Venerable members of Mahasangha, dear friends in the Dhamma. I just want to thank you for the Venerable Dhammapiti and the management committee of Los Angeles Buddhist Vihar for giving this the golden opportunity to talk about the teaching of the Buddha. I feel this is very blessed, and I truly thank you and appreciate that opportunity. It has been a long day. Some of the devotees in here since this morning. So they engage with various kind of religious the activities throughout the day. Though it's alone, but it was very meaningful, and it's something that you accumulate into your life. So that's the most important things about the day. But today's the topic we're going to discuss the Buddhist concept of happiness. This is very broader, perhaps one of the longest topic in Buddhism to discuss. According to the time wise, and I just keep the parallelism between the happiness and unhappiness. they engage the certain the discourses as well. The primarily is the happiness of this talk. I will keep engaged with the first Dhamma sermon uttered by Buddha. So it's a very popular one. It's known as Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. So I will be engaged with that to support the topic as well. And also I will be engaged the various Dhamma words from the Dhammapada, which is very popular with the Buddhist people, and not only Buddhist people, it's all of us so engaged with the daily life. So based on the very meaningful the verses in Dhammapada, so I will be using certain the things from the Dhammapada as well. And also is back and forth the various discourses, discipline of loyalty. So the based on the Vyaggapada Sutta, Singalovada Sutta, Parabhava Sutta, and Mangala Sutta. So those are the primary discourses that I will be using to engage all of us together. The topic about the regarding happiness. According to the Buddha, all living beings is a desire to happiness, and all of them is to reject suffering, right? So no one wanted to have unhappiness. Every human, everybody, including animals, that no one wants to suffer, right? So that's very, very primary, the concept when you're talking about the happiness of the Buddhist concept. So that is why I mentioned in the very beginning, Sabbe Sattva Sukha Kamani. Sabbe is all of us. Satta is a living being, Sukha Kamani. They willing to have happiness into their life. No one wants to suffer. Dukkha Patikkulani. Whenever it's come to unhappiness, whenever it's come to suffering, so we all reject it. That's a very universal concept. But it's still, we need to go through with both parts, right? So sometimes we experience in happiness in life, and sometimes we experience in unhappiness in life. So we do have a dualistic approach towards the life. So we need to go between these two the path as well. So it's so we need to define what is happiness exactly. So it's very hard to define the happiness. The happiness is based on your own action, right? So it's lately it was in 2014 I attended one of the greatest speech was given by His Holiness Dalai Lama. So in UCLA, so then he engaged with that the dialogue is so certain question is what make you happiness. The explanation is his own experience. Is an accumulation of your own action. It's make you whether you are happy or not. So I also believe that this is very true, right? So it's whenever he gave a speech, he said it's how much he experienced in life is violence and the discrimination and the marginalization that he uncomfortable the most of the time. So all those, the action, he said, is the final, the decision of your own spiritual or mundane happiness. So that is the way it's defined in happiness. So for example, so we can use the many words for the happiness. For example, happy, enjoying, the pleasure, and also is the satisfaction or joyfulness. Those kind of words, so we can define as the happiness. But it's the most, the philosophical definition for the happiness, the pleasure conceived of as untroubledness, virtue alone together with the external good. So that's kind of the philosophical view. It's the external good, the untroubledness, that to accumulation, the positive or negative action that make you happy or unhappy. That's a kind of like a philosophical the definition for the happiness. Because this happiness is very individualistic, it depends on how we act, so how we live. So that's based on your own criteria. So we cannot define very concrete, right? We cannot give a very concrete definition. This is very abstract. It's always changing, right? So happiness is always changing. What is the opposite of happiness? We call it unhappiness, right? So it's unhappiness in the Buddhism, we call it dukkha. It's a very common word, right? So we always talk about the dukkha. It's a very, very common, the Pali word when you talk about the Buddha, right? The Buddhist teaching. For example, is the three characteristics of life. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. So we always talk about the anicca, dukkha and anatta. Dukkha is suffering. I feel sometimes we talk so much on suffering, right? So in the Buddhism, when we regarding about the Buddhist talk, or whenever we attend for the funerals and when we attend for the religious ceremonies, I feel so a lot of people is the emphasis in the Buddhism as the negative aspect of unhappiness in a life. But it's sometimes we feel it's wise Buddhism is always talk about unhappiness of a life rather than appreciate our happiness in a life. Sometimes we look at the completely darkness side of the life. So that kind of thing is negative. We call this unhappiness. Unhappiness we can put as unsatisfactory, sorrow, depressed, and sadness, and the misfortune as well, the discomfort. Those are the words we can put as unhappiness. But it's, in Buddhism, it's very clear. So based on the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the very first sermon uttered by Buddha, Buddha rejected the extreme parties, right? So he rejected two of the extreme path. What is the Buddha, why is rejected? The first one we call is the sensual pleasure, with the reference to the sensual object, kama sukhalikhaniko. The Buddha mentioned is hino gammo potujjaniko anariyo anatta samhito. So do you think is the too much sensual pleasure, or someone is the take life is completely the object as sensual activities, making the believing on that, making so much unhappy. The Buddha says not, that is not the correct path. So that is why, as the Buddha said, is hino gammo potujjaniko anariyo anatta samhito. It can be disturbance to your life. It has a low estima, and then it's a low positivity, and also it's unprofitable. It's nothing the much you can get throughout that. And also is Buddha rejected the other extremism, this we call is self-multiplication. There's so much on painfulness into our life. So also it's the bad is very harmful, and nothing much can get through that, right? So it's the Buddha has given this to the parties, like sensual pleasure and the self-mortification. Why he rejected? He go through all those two parts previous to his life. So he experienced that. So that is why the Buddha, the mention is the Buddhism is not the kind of like a believing blindly. It is a kind of things that you the practice and that you understand, and its realization is lastly. So Buddha gave this very first Dhamma sermon. So he go through with these two different parts. So that is why he completely mentioned avoiding both these two extremes. The middle way realized by the Tathagata, by the Lord Buddha, the providing a vision, the providing knowledge, the lead to a calm, to direct knowledge, to a self-awakening, to unbinding. So that is what is the Buddha realized, whatever he go through his life. So we believe is his meditation, the practice of self-mortification, and also he has so much indulgence, right? So we believe he's a prince, and then he grew up with the lot of luxurious life. So we believe is so he had the three palaces, right? So very comfortable livelihood. So he rejected that. For example, is in US maybe is the rich people like billionaires, right? So they have a comfortable house in Beverly Hills, in Los Angeles. Sometimes they have houses in the Miami, in Florida. So it's very comfortable, so they can enjoy their life. And sometimes they have a very high expensive houses in the New York, Manhattan. So it's a Prince Siddhartha also have three different palaces. So he spent his time on that enjoying until age of 29. So he experienced so much on sensuality. So indulgement with those kind of material wealthiness. So he finally rejected that. So he believes that is not the true path for the happiness. So that is why he left, and also he experienced self-mortification. He gave a lot of painful time himself. The giving painfulness to his life, he understands that's not the healthy way to attain everlasting happiness. So that is why he avoid these two extremes, and then he mentioned the true happiness. Others call it what is suffering, and go through suffering, and then he attain everlasting happiness of Nibbana. So that's what is the happiness Buddha himself in an early stage of the Buddhism he explained in the very the first sermon Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. And the happiness in so it's different religions also have a different views as well. In a Christian, so they believe is the saving to the God is the happiness for themselves, and the caring each other, the love and mutual friendship, that bring them to happiness as well. And Islamic also they believe is the praying for the gods 5 times a day. So make themselves happy and making God happy as well. So that's where people in a religious faith they believe in to be happiness as well. I just here want to mention so the happiness is insufficient. without behaving well and being happy is Plato and Aristotle, Socrates, and the wisdom is nothing much you can get without the behaving yourself as morally. So its morality also is a very important part for our the life as well. So when you are looking at the modern world in the today, so its world is so much is material benefits and so much the increase our the livelihood in various ways, and perhaps in our happiness can be remain in the flat or it can be decreased. So due to so much of the material the development, right? So it's how you keep your the simplicity and your happiness, the level in this huge the developed world. So that's the psychology approach in the moral development in the modern world. I think it's we all the need to think about in what this world is became an unhappy place, and sometimes it's the morally corrupted people. It's a lot of within in certain years, and also it's in this 20th century we believe is a lot of distraction and a lot of marginalization and discrimination happen. For example, in early 1950s, and we call this the world became the decolonization. So I think it's we all experience, we have heard about that it's a colonies, right? So we grew up with the lot of our the great grandparents during the British colonies in Sri Lanka. But perhaps so we get the independence, and then the world has changed after the Second World War, and then a lot of things happen. So we call this is the world is a decolonization, but due to its a lot of pressure. But after the decolonization, the modern world has a lot of issues, the psychological issues, a lot of sicknesses, depression. Why happened those things? Because of the huge material, the development, right? So everyone is looking for the wealthiness through the material world. So that is the way we travel so much distant to get our material wealthiness and material comfort, right? Perhaps most of us is born in Sri Lanka. Somehow we grew up in the very simplicity of the livelihood. But I know as a Sri Lankan, we also experience a lot of violence in our young age. For example, myself, I experienced a lot of violence during the Civil War, and a lot of calamities in the society, and the local revolutions and all those things they make us a lot of unhappiness, right? So same thing, and then it's a post-colonial world, it's a lot of the sicknesses. And a lot of prohibitions, a lot of the modern psychology term, we talk about the unhappiness, sadness, so much increase of that. That due to this huge material world, so we travel to get that happiness. Sometimes we destroy our inner peace. So that's what happened in pretty much in the modern day in the world. So that is why Buddhism is a very important the pact to bring into happiness in our life as well. So so when you regarding about that in the Buddhism, so we have the happiness and connectivity between the morality and happiness. The morality and happiness is these two together. So Buddha has mentioned you can develop the happiness into life. If someone is morally good, is happy, right? If it's morally bad, we call this unhappiness. That's the two the word we can explain in Buddhism, kusala and akusala, right? So that's the two words so we can apply. What is kusala in Buddhism? We call it skillful, and morally good action, and morally bad action we call is akusala, right? So those, the kusala and akusala, based on your own action and your own thought, the Buddha mentioned there is a very, very bad, the three poisonous in our life that destroy our inner peace. The first one is greed, hatred, and delusion, right? So we are filled with that, the lot in our life. So ordinary human, and including myself, or more or less, so we do have those kind of the feeling within ourselves. So it's so much violence increase due to greediness and hatred and delusion, right? Those are the very, very powerful, the poisonous every human heart has, more or less. The religions came to the role in order to control those kind of ill will within your mind. So we destroy our inner peace because of we have too much anger, we have too much hatred, we have a lot of ill will, we have a common jealousy each other. So those are the unwholesome thought. We call is the within the mind, the action that you produce, making yourself the miserable in your life. So we need to completely eradicate those things. So that is the ultimate happiness. So later we will be discussing on that, but it's the keep in mind. So so we need to eradicate those kind of ill will, jealousy, in order to develop inner peace. So whenever is the mind is defiled, ill and bondage with those kind of hatreds, ill will and delusion, so we are the living in the darkness as well. That is what is the greatest scientist like Albert Einstein, who mentioned the science without religion can be blind as well. Because it's a science so much developed, you can increase the various ways throughout our action. We use our human mind to produce every atomic or any kind of energies within us. Because we are human. If you don't have a religion, so we can be blind, we can destroy this world. We can destroy our inner peace. We can kill millions of people. So that's what is happening so much on the wars in this world. So that is what the people believe. So they themselves destroy their inner peace. Due to these kind of the unwholesome mental formation produced within your own heart. So as the Buddha mentioned, if you destroy those kind of poisons, and Buddha said this mind is pure, mind is well, and mind in freedom. And that is what the Buddha has mentioned, the morally the good. And now you know the very first I mentioned. So keep the lineage of what we're talking on the step by step, so that make you the better understanding about the topic as well. We define what is the we call is the happiness, and then we bring out the Buddhist teaching, how we apply and why the Buddha rejected extreme path. And now is the Buddha mention what is morally good and what is morally bad. So now you realize, hopefully you understand yourself now, when something is morally bad and morally good, and you need to travel in between that path to realize happiness, we call is the middle path. So that is what is the given in a very first Dhamma talk. So it's whenever you experience with the morality with the good, so Buddha mentioned is mental health, the mental purity, the mental ability, and all the resulting the happiness. Arogya Paramalabha, Anamajjitha, and also is the Sukha Vipaka. So when you develop skillful activities within your life, so you will increase those kind of mental and physical healthy life. So that healthy life in psychology, we modern day we call it a positive psychology, right? So it's a positive psychology. So you feel about the life towards happiness, and you feel positive, and you have confidence within yourself. That is what in the Buddhist teaching we wanted to emphasize in happiness. The other way we can talk about the Buddhism in happiness is the state of your mind, right? So which I earlier mentioned as a define. So Buddhism I call it's a happiness is abstract. It is not concrete, but you can establish the very powerful mind state, due to the development of wholesome thought. So that is in Buddhism we call is the permanent happiness. It is not temporary. It's no one can destroy. It's always can remain within yourself. So that's what in the very much we're looking at the yogis and a lot of practitioners. It's a lot of the great spiritual the advisors within us. They fully establish themselves, the inner peace. No one can destroy that. For example, it's this is a great period of time. It's a Vassana season. The get together, work alone together, right? Buddhism is not only the Buddhist monk or Buddhist nun. It is not only for the loyalties, the female devotees or male devotees. Buddhism is a profound of combination, bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, upasika. So we have a great opportunity in the Buddha establish this Vassana period. So we can develop this inner peace, inner happiness, the get together. So that is why we organize this great religious event in here today. So sharing our dharma, sharing our the knowledge and our experience in life as well, and also is making ourselves so much upliftment, so much development through the path of the Buddha. So that's the kind of inner peace that no one ever can destroy. So that's the true state of your mind when you define as own happiness. And also the happiness is a very universal concept. So we need to develop this into broader approach as well. And that is why Buddhism is engaged with the two different approach of the happiness. One we call is spiritual happiness. The other one we call is material happiness. But they never rejected these two ends. These two is very important, but you have to understand very, very carefully about that. So it's the spiritual happiness, we call it supramundane happiness. And the material happiness, we call it the mundane happiness, the daily base of your happiness. So the first we can talk about the material happiness, right? So that's what very much we wanted to have. So sometimes our goal even to come to US or go to the developed nation in a primarily. So because we have a lack of in frustration and the lack of the facilities in Sri Lanka or somewhere else, is if we truly enough to explain our. So, but there's a lot of reason as well. But one of the reasons is that is corrupted sometimes within the environment where we grew up sometimes. So we're looking for is better the comfort, better the material environment. So that is very true actually. According to Chakravarti Sihananda Sutta, is the Buddha said it's a nation or it's a country as a whole, it has to be established in a great political environment, that without corruption, that without marginalization, without discrimination, in order to practice religion, right? There's so much violence we experience in our back of the young days. So it is impossible to keep concentrate ourselves as well. That perhaps this can be the lot of sicknesses increases in our nation, like a post-traumatic disorder, which is people so much regret, the worry about their life, because they did not have a pleasant childhood. They have so much domestic violence. They have so much the international kind of violence as well. Those kind of things we can destroy our material, the healthiness and the material happiness. The material happiness is very, very important as well. That during the time of the Buddha, so I just in here using the Vyagapancha Sutta, it's one of the person we call is the Digajana Koli Buddha, one of the person who used to live in the village. So the village is the lot of weavers coming and a lot of religious, the practitioners, that a lot of yogis coming around, and they gave a different kind of religious talking, and then it's a giving instruction to follow to make happiness their life, and the people can be confused as well because there's so many the weavers and so many the religious faith around us. Sometimes we do not know what exactly believe and who to follow as well, right? So when you see in YouTube in Sri Lanka, you can see a lot of the Buddhist monk and a lot of the religious the preachers. They gave a various approach of Buddhism, right? Sometimes we can be very confused as well. Even ourselves as well, we do not know what exactly which path to travel, right? Sometimes people they use those kind of YouTube and all those things whenever they have a pleasure time to the free times to watch and they listen to them as well. Of course, there's so many good out there, So believe me, there's a lot of good Dhamma talk, and there's a lot of good the discussion as well. You need to listen to that. So making and listening to that, they make your knowledge is more. But you need to choose your own path. So that is what Buddha mentioned to Digadana Koli Buddha. He mentioned the 4 different things that make your life in happy. We call this Utthana Sampada, Arakkhitha Sampada, Kalyana Mitrata, Samajivi Katati. Accomplishment of effort, what you put in, what you're going to do, and everything you need to do, your dedication is very much important. Uttanavato, the Buddha has mentioned. It doesn't really matter to the monk or the Buddhist practitioners, to anyone, everybody, every individual human. So we need to really work hard. Even animals, they do as well. So survival matter, they can't rely on, they can't be lazy, they have to work. They want to feed themselves, they want to dedicate on that. The human, same thing, so we need to work on that as well. That is what is called Arakkhitha Sampada. And this Utthana Sampada. Arakkhitha Sampada is the requirements of the protection and associate with the good parents, the Kalyana Mitrata, and balanced livelihood. I do not go so much on details, all those individuals. The concept, I am very sure all of you know and you have heard this thing. So, but I'm primarily summarizing So where we can get from the discourses that make you happy. So if you wanted to further the research, or if you wanted to more study about that, we need to go through is a discourse of Vyagapajja, is the well-being and welfare of happiness of laity. Is the Buddha has mentioned. But I just want to emphasize from here is the good friendship and the balanced livelihood. It is very important to discuss as well. The good friendship is the associate with the virtuous one that make your life actually happy as well. So, so it's good people. So they have a positive psychology. They always they bring out of the good things to our life. They encourage us to do the good things. And the bad people, so what they do, they discourage us as well. I think is you have all know those common stories during the time of the Buddha, the Venerable Devadatta association of the King Ajatasattu, and what happened is a lot of destruction themselves go through as well. And it's a great Venerable the Sariputta and a great Venerable Arahant the Moggallana association of the good friendship. It developed into the goodwill of the Buddhism, and this is they are virtuous of that friendship. It's very universalized, and then that's what is a good friendship is very important for our life. So it's the other thing is the balanced livelihood, because of Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. When you regard about the happiness, we reject two ends, but we go through the balanced livelihood. We call it Majjhima Patipada. It's a realization, the travel to the middle path and eightfold path. So that's the way, the kind of happiness you can get. And also is the Buddhist teaching emphasis on the sublime state, metta, karuna, mudita, upekha. So one of the ways you can bring happiness into life. The metta is the loving kindness. You all practice that in more or less in daily basis. So that's the best way you can keep yourself with a good friendship. That's the best way you can develop mutual understanding each other, how important for our life, the sharing the loving thoughts and radiation of the loving kindness each other, that make you very comfortable as well. And also is the compassion, compassion to all suffering, the living beings. So it has to be very universal. It's not the individual concept, but you need to develop your compassion to every human, every animal, to our nature, the whatever things around us. We need to appreciate that. We are so much blessed to have this kind of beautiful environment. So we are so much blessed. We have great opportunities to pursue the goal in our life, our education, our mental and physical well-being, the living, the peaceful, the nation, and practice the religious faith as well, so much of freedom as well, without discrimination. So those kind of like compassion you has to be to everyone. We need to appreciate all those things. Mudita is the ability to happy and the sharing your success with the other one. That's a kind of like impossible things to do as a human, right? So that's what we have a common jealousy towards the others, but extremely harmful that. So if you can happy your success, your wealthiness, if you can share it with the others as well, it's very the good way to develop it's a universal peace. So keep in mind that as well. And also it's equanimity. Equanimity is very much related to Majjhima Patipada, for the middle path, in unshakable, the balanced livelihood, and keeping anything happen into your life, you keep in upekha, equanimity. So sometimes we call this life is we can win and we can lose something in the life, right? So sometimes people blame, sometimes people appreciate, right? So this is always in a daily base on our life. That's kind of like we call this the material life is a mundane life. It's a daily. It's the things are changing. It cannot change someone else. It's kind of very common. But if you can keep in between parallelism, in between the balance, so that balance, the life is we call it equanimity. So that's what very important, right? In the Buddha has mentioned gihi kama bogino. Is gihi people, that means lay people, right? So they like to have enjoy their life. That's sensual pleasure. That's not bad actually. So if you too much extreme on that, so that's a bad, right? So we need to enjoy our life. We need to look at our life in a brightness side. We need to be positive within ourselves. And we can engage with the material things as well, right? So that's the purpose as well. For example, in myself, so then sometimes I got some opportunities in university. Sometimes professors they ask me to give the Buddhist speech in the class, right? Classroom sometimes. So then one occasion I gave a Dhamma talk, not Dhamma talk, I talked about the Buddhism, kind of like a Southeast Asian the culture class. So it's when you talk about the Buddhist monk, so it's in a text, in the Buddhist text is defined is it's a solitary journey, right? So we cut off from the materialistic life, and then it's so we detach those engagement in materialistic things, and we need to travel a solitary journey. And it's a lot of my classmates and the friends is asking, so so if you cut off the materialistic life, so you so go to like a university in here, and so why you using the car, and why you have a cell phone, and why you have the computer, like I do have like my own laptop as well. I'm using the PowerPoint presentation. So why you asking, why you using those kind of material, the things for your life? So I told them it's we can use material things for the purpose, right? So I use my cell phone. So in case if something happens, so we need to call, right? So I'm not using my cell phone 24 hours like engagement of my own happiness, indulgement with the sensual activities. So I use my laptop for my education purpose, and so that is the way I can approach. For the professors, that's the way I can connect and keep in touch with each and everyone. Perhaps I can talk, give a Dhamma talk online as well. Those kind of we use actually with the purpose, right? So every human, so we cannot completely detach all those things. As a Buddhist monk, when we live in like a LA, so or living in any kind of world in modern days, we still need to use those things. We using this thing without attachment. We use for the purpose. If we have a good intention, so you can use those kind of things. So that makes it comfortable, and that makes us easier to do that thing as well. So that is why what the mention is in the Gihi Kama Bhog, so you need to enjoy your life. So don't be disappointed to always to engage with the religious activities or anything, but as a life you need to keep in between on parallelism as well. So I think it's one of the great things for happiness. So Santutti Paramandaram in the Dhammapada mentioned, the contentment is the highest wealth. So if you are the materially established, so you have a time to concentrate your mind towards the good things. If you are not really stabilized with the material condition, So it's, you have a poor health, the wealth, so it's a kind of like a weakness. So you cannot really practice and you cannot really keep upliftment within yourself. So that is why the Buddha has mentioned Arogya Paramalabha. Is the health is the one of the highest happiness as well. The wealth and contentment and health and those things is a kind of like a happiness for us as well. In Sringalovada Sutta, the Buddha has mentioned is the family life is happiness, the association with the parents, the children, teachers, and the get-together has a whole society. It's a kind of like a sociologically the approach in the modern Buddhism. We call it the family. It's a very important concept. So get together alone is that's the way you can make happy as well. And of course, the wife is the man's greatest friend. So that's also is a good thing. So it's a husband and wife understanding each other. So it's a productive society. That's the way it's established this world, right? So human productivity and it's biologically and psychologically how it's to go through the understanding as a family as a unit. Husband and wife is the householder. So this origination is very important to bring happiness to the family, is to bring happiness into your surrounding, and that's the happiness is universally developed, right? So the family is the starting point of happiness in Buddhism. So that is why Sringalovada Sutta Buddha has mentioned the responsibilities each other, how get together, the work together, has a unit of the family. So that's a very important concept. And the children is the man's greatest wealth as well. Is the having the children is very important. Yeah. So it's I know it's when you regarding the backup board, this colonial world, what I call is a decolonization. This modern world is a nuclear family concept and one children or something like that. You know, it's so it's a lot of people that develop the individual concept. It's kind of like a selfish thought, right? So we want to enjoy ourselves and we want to have so much wealthiness. Even some of our society, we can see some of our people is not willing to dedicate to making children as well. But I believe, in the Buddhism also believe, in the right age, the right time, get along together, have productivity and the children. So that's the future of the world. That's a universal, it has to go through, right? So it's very natural. So whatever is the household life, still you have the children, but it doesn't really matter for when you come to practice in the spiritual life. So those things is a very good concept, you know, to answer the material wealthiness. I think I too much on that. So then is so material wealthiness can be decreased as well. In the Parabhava Sutta, I think you all know about that. So it's whenever you have the feeling lazy and irritable and not appreciate about the teaching of the Buddha, being so much on the gambling and alcoholism, and primarily if you not practice the 5 precepts in Parabhava Sutta, you will decrease your happiness. You will decrease your material wealthiness, eventually. So you can be very sick and ill-will person in the society. This is very true actually. So when you, I don't have to go like examples and details, but we know that, right? So when someone is so much addiction to so much the gambling, someone who's so much on womanization, and those people can eventually decrease their wealthiness and happiness. Of course, if you want to develop, if you want to increase your material wealthiness, the Buddha has recommended like Mangala Sutta and Vyagapada Sutta and Sringalovada Sutta. Those are the things in the Buddhist approach of the material happiness. The last one is a topic we're going to discuss a bit more about the spiritual happiness, the super mundane happiness. Nibbana Paramatsuka is the ultimate goal of happiness in Buddhism. Is the Buddha has mentioned is to attain everlasting happiness of nirvana, right? So, in order to get the nirvana, in Buddhism we need to travel is eightfold path: right understanding, right intention, right speed, right action, and right livelihood, right effort, and right mindfulness, and right concentration. So eightfold path is very the popular the teaching of the Buddha is very universal. Each and everybody is known. So when you develop the eightfold path, the happiness of the processing in the calmness inside, we call it inner peace, and no one can ever destroy that. So it will remain all the time within yourself. So that is why it's, you come to temple, you're doing those kind of activities, you engage with the Dhamma so much on that. So we meditate, we practice mindfulness, sati samadhi, and those things actually, so accumulation of the wholesome action eventually lead to an everlasting happiness of nirvana. So in order to that, to attain the supreme wisdom of happiness, we need to go through in a middle path to experience about the super mundane happiness. But it's in Buddhism, it's a very big the tradition. It has the Mahayana Buddhism and it has the Zen Buddhism as well. I mean here very briefly explain about Mahayana Buddhism, what they discuss about the happiness. May all beings have true happiness. This is the Mahayana Bodhisattva concept. That is the Bodhisattva declaration of the happiness. Every living being have to have a true happiness. And also they mention all living beings free from suffering, and it is the cause of suffering as well. This is the Bodhisattva expression of the universal happiness. And a Bodhisattva also mention the highest happiness is a perfect joy, the fullness within your life. So you need to realization, sympathetic joy within your life. So that's the Bodhisattva also mentioned. It's in the equanimity and free from the discrimination and attachment, you can build the universal development of the happiness. So that is why as a Bodhisattva, so keep in mind, as a Bodhisattva is a very universal concept. It's a very universalized teaching of the Buddha. It is the development of the loving kindness, the metta, karuna, the mudita, to everlasting happiness of in our life. And a Pure Land Buddhism, we call this also as a part of the Thero Mahayana Buddhism. We call this happiness is a blissful state. The blissful means is someone is truly free from suffering, the free from anger, the free from ill will and jealousy. Someone can enjoy the blissful state. It can be very the positive psychology as well. In a Zen Buddhism, we call it mundane happiness. So you need to apply into daily into your life. So this is very much in to conclude in my Dhamma talk, in the teaching of the Buddha, his ultimate goal is the Nibbana Paramatsuka, which I earlier mentioned, Sukha Kamani, Bhutani, Dukkha Patikkolani. All of us reject the suffering, so every individual wanted to enjoy happiness. In Buddhism, it's the last and ultimate goal is happiness. We call it everlasting happiness, the emancipation of nirvana. To attain to nirvana, so we need to have a birth, and also is the birth is became a condition for the suffering. The suffering became the condition to develop our faithfulness. The faithfulness is developed into our life happiness and joyfulness. The joyfulness is developed in our inner peace, tranquility, and tranquility is the developed concentration. The concentration is through the meditation. We can gain the knowledge and the wisdom. The wisdom and realization that make your life emancipation. Emancipation is the last destroy the samsaric journey and eradicate of which I mentioned is greed, hatred and delusion, and your mind became pure and your mind became free from enmity, anger and ill will, and may you finally experience the blissful state of your life. So that's what we call this in Buddhism in the inner peace and everlasting happiness. Though we talk about within 1 hour, so it's so much work. We need to all travel. So we are all part of that. We are all of us, including myself and all those great venerable, we are part of the Buddha. We are still traveling and hope in each and every individual of this compound, one day, sooner or later, will experience happiness, and may you all attain everlasting happiness of Nirvana. And thinking thus, to please say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Akasattha Chummatta Devanaga Mahindika Punyantang Anumoditva Chiran Rakkantu Lokasasanam. Akasattha Chummatta Devanaga Mahindika Punyantang Anumoditva Chiran Rakkantu Dhammadesanam. Akasattha Chummatta Devanaga Mahindika Punyantang Anumoditva Chiran Rakkantu Tang Sada